All right. Ready to dive deep into some seriously controversial football transfers? We've got articles, research, the whole nine yards, all about the moves that had fans fuming, shook up leagues, and basically turned the football world upside down.
It's more than just players changing teams, though, right? It's about the WHY. The stories behind these transfers, they're full of drama, rivalry, ambition. It's like a glimpse into the high-stakes business of the beautiful game.
Yeah, let's get into it. Starting with a recent one that shows just how intense fans can be. Michy Batshuayi, going from Fenerbahce to Galatasaray in 2024, they're Istanbul rivals.
It's super rare to see a player do that. The rivalry between these two clubs, it's legendary. One of the fiercest in the world, goes way beyond football, touches on social and cultural identities, all kinds of things.
And Batshuayi definitely felt the heat. Our sources detail some serious backlash, threats, even racist comments. Reminds us that while rivalry is part of what makes the game exciting, it should never, ever cross the line into hate and abuse.
For sure. But there's a historical side to this, too, even with all the controversy. Batshuayi became the first foreign player, and only the 11th ever, to play for Turkey's three biggest clubs, Fenerbahce, Galatasaray, and Beşiktaş.
So, it shows the dark side of rivalry, but also how Turkish football is changing, with more international players making their mark. Now let's rewind a bit, go back to 2001, North London. A transfer that still sparks debate about loyalty, ambition, the price of success. Campbell, Tottenham Hotspur to Arsenal.
Ah, yes, the North London betrayal. Shows what happens when you don't just leave a club, but join their absolute worst enemy.
And he joined Arsenal on a free transfer after rejecting a big contract extension from Spurs. Can you break down what a free transfer is and why it made things even worse?
Free transfer means Arsenal got him, a world-class defender, without paying Tottenham a penny. Tottenham loses a star player for nothing, and he goes on to strengthen their biggest rival. Talk about adding insult to injury.
It definitely adds a whole other layer to the whole idea of betrayal, doesn't it? Then, of course, he wins 2 Premier League titles and 3 FA Cups with Arsenal, just to rub it in for Tottenham fans. But shouldn't a player get to choose where they play, where they can achieve their goals? Where's the line between ambition and loyalty?
That's the million-dollar question, right? On one hand, players absolutely have the right to go after the opportunities that align with their goals. But fans, especially when a player comes up through their youth system, they become emotionally invested. It feels like a betrayal when someone like Campbell crosses that line.
And that feeling of betrayal can linger for years. Some of our sources mention Tottenham fans still call him Judas, which just goes to show how deep those feelings run.
Yeah, it's like tribalism in football fandom, taken to the extreme. Your club becomes part of you, so when a player, especially a homegrown one, is seen as betraying that, it gets a powerful reaction.
Okay, staying with these fiery rivalries. Spain, 2000. Luis Figo goes from Barcelona to Real Madrid. Things were already heated between them, that El Clasico rivalry, but this just poured gasoline on the fire.
This was huge, and not just because of the world record $62 million in fee. Figo was captain at Barcelona, a fan favorite. Going to their bitter rivals, ultimate betrayal.
And Barcelona fans let him know how they felt, right? Stuff thrown at him when he went back to Camp Nou with Real Madrid. Apparently, even a pig's head.
It's one of those stories that's become legendary. But to really get it, you have to understand the history, the culture behind the El Clasico rivalry, its regional identity, politics, even the history of oppression during Franco's regime. Catalan identity is about independence, and Barcelona, for a lot of people, represents that fight against Spanish power.
So Figo, a Barcelona symbol, joining Real Madrid, seen as the establishment club. That was a huge statement.
Exactly. It tapped into all those underlying tensions, unleashed this wave of anger. Their actions weren't right, obviously, but you can kind of understand them when you factor in the history of it all.
Shows that football, even though it's a sport, often mirrors what's happening in society, in politics. Okay, on to the next stop on this wild ride of controversial transfers.
Bring on the drama.
This one's for the Manchester United and Manchester City fans. 2009, Carlos Tevez goes from the red side of Manchester to the blue side. Didn't exactly make the United fans happy.
It wasn't just about the rivalry, though that was part of it. There was a power shift happening in Manchester football. Manchester City, with their new owners from Abu Dhabi, lots of money to spend. They were sending a message. They were coming for United's top spot.
And signing Tevez, a United fan favorite, was a way to make that statement, right? Showing they could go after the best, even if it meant taking them from their rivals. And then there's that billboard, "Welcome to Manchester," after they signed him. Seemed pretty deliberate. What do you think they were going for with that?
That billboard. Genius. Pure psychological warfare. City saying, look at us, we're bold, we're not afraid to challenge anyone, gets under United fans' skin, announces them as a major force. And it worked, didn't it? Iconic image. Perfectly captures that power shift.
Yeah, it wasn't just about getting at their rivals, it was about sending a message to the entire football world. Manchester City were serious contenders, ready to do whatever it took to get to the top. Shows how transfers can be used strategically, how they can shape the whole narrative.
Totally. And don't forget, Tevez helped them win their first Premier League title in 44 years, the start of their rise to the top. That billboard almost predicted it.
Transfers aren't just about individual players, are they? It's the ambitions of clubs, the rivalries, the constant battle for power.
And speaking of ambition, our next transfer involves a player accused of choosing glory over loyalty. Back to Arsenal, 2012. Robin van Persie, their captain, top scorer, jumped ship to Manchester United.
Arsenal fans must have been gutted. They'd already seen big players leave for bigger clubs. Van Persie leaving felt like another nail in the coffin, added to this sense of frustration among the fans.
Van Persie was upfront about it. He wanted trophies. Felt Arsenal couldn't give him that. Manchester United, with their history, seemed like a better bet.
And he got that Premier League title in his first season, so he got what he wanted. But was it worth it?
That's the question, right? Does ambition ever really trump loyalty? For lots of Arsenal fans, Van Persie leaving was a personal blow. Like he'd put his own goals above the club's, made them feel like a selling club, just a stepping stone for players.
It's a tough one. You can see both sides. A player's career isn't forever. Winning trophies is a big motivator. But for fans, that connection to the club is deep. And seeing a player like that, a captain, joining a rival, tough to swallow.
It's the clash between individual ambition and being loyal to the team. Makes you think. What do we really value in our players? Is it winning at all costs? Or building a legacy, something that lasts longer than individual trophies?
It's those questions that make these transfers so interesting. They're not just players moving, they're about ambition, loyalty, the expectations between players and fans.
And speaking of expectations, let's move on to a transfer that was, well, messy. Ashley Cole. Arsenal to Chelsea, 2006. Accusations of tapping up, contract disputes, the whole works.
This wasn't just about joining a rival, it was about how it happened. Felt like Cole was lured away from Arsenal, behind their backs. What exactly does tapping up mean? Why is it such a big deal?
Tapping up is when a club approaches a player about a transfer without getting permission from their current club. It's seen as unethical, against the rules. But it happens, especially when big clubs are after the same players. In Cole's case, Chelsea were accused of going behind Arsenal's back to get him, which made things even worse.
And then the contract disputes on top of it. Cole felt Arsenal weren't valuing him, while they thought he was asking for too much. Played out in the media, made the whole thing really bitter.
And then, to top it all off, he goes and joins Chelsea, their London rivals. Arsenal fans felt completely betrayed. They even started calling him Cashley, implying he was all about the money.
It shows how a transfer unfolds can really affect how it's seen. Even if a player's unhappy and wants something new, the way they leave can ruin their reputation.
It's not just where you go, it's how you go. Cole leaving Arsenal like that overshadowed him, even though he won a lot with Chelsea.
Okay, switching gears a bit. A transfer that's a cautionary tale about big money moves and all the pressure that comes with them. Fernando Torres, 50 million on. Liverpool to Chelsea, 2011.
Record-breaking fee at the time, huge expectations. He was scoring tons of goals for Liverpool, but couldn't find that form at Chelsea.
What happened? Did he not fit their style of play? Or was it something else?
Probably a mix of things. New club, especially for that much money, can be intimidating. The pressure to justify the price tag, the fans expecting you to deliver, plus adapting to a new environment, a new way of playing.
Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Torres had injuries, confidence issues. Maybe the weight of that fee got to him.
Even the best players can crumble under that pressure. Sometimes a change doesn't help. It makes things worse.
And for clubs, it's a reminder that spending a ton doesn't guarantee success. Risk is always there, and sometimes those big money moves blow up in your face.
It's a balancing act, looking at potential, price, making sure they're a good fit for the team, for the club culture.
Okay, this next one goes beyond just rivalry. Deep-seated tensions, social, political. Johnston, 1989, Celtic to Rangers. The old firm rivalry.
This was huge in Scottish football. You have to understand this rivalry to get it. Celtic and Rangers, not just football, it's religion, politics. Celtic, traditionally Catholicism and Irish republicanism. Rangers, Protestantism, and British Unionism.
So it's way more than two clubs competing. It's centuries-old divisions right there on the pitch.
Absolutely. And get this, Johnston had played for Celtic before, left to play in France for a bit. When he came back, everyone thought he'd go back to Celtic. But no, he signed with Rangers.
Talk about crossing a line. How did the fans react?
Explosively. Celtic fans saw it as betrayal, rejecting their values, their identity. Rangers fans. Some were resistant at first, given their history. Remember, sectarian tensions in Glasgow were high? This transfer just brought all that to the surface.
So more than football, it was challenging assumptions, prejudices, all that.
Exactly. He became a symbol of change, old boundaries blurring, sparked debates about identity, integration, how Scottish society was changing.
Football mirroring what's happening in society, sometimes even forcing change.
And for another transfer that shook things up, John Obi Mikel. Chelsea, 2005. Contract conflicts, legal battles, two of England's biggest clubs fighting over him. Real-life thriller.
This one's a saga. Everyone thought Mikel had signed with Manchester United, even posed in their shirt for the press. Then, plot twist, he says he wants to join Chelsea. How's that even possible? Hadn't he already signed?
Very messy. Conflicting contracts, agreements. Mikel said he was pressured to sign with United. Chelsea insisted they had a legitimate claim. Ended up in court. FIFA had to get involved.
Must have been stressful for Mikel, a young player, stuck between these two giants.
Imagine that. Young, full of dreams, and suddenly you're in a legal battle that could end your career before it even starts.
Shows how high the stakes are in these transfers. Players become pawns, caught up in contracts, regulations, clubs trying to outmaneuver each other.
And speaking of outmaneuvering, Neymar, $222 million, Barcelona to Paris Saint-Germain, 2017. Record-shattering.
$222 million. It's hard to even wrap your head around that kind of money. This wasn't just a transfer, it was PSG making a statement. They were here to take over, become a global superpower.
It changed everything. Suddenly, anything seemed possible. Other clubs started chasing those mega deals, trying to copy PSG's formula.
But there was a lot of pushback too, right? People questioning if this was sustainable, if it was even good for the game. What were some of the arguments against these huge deals?
Yeah. One big worry was that it would create a bigger gap between the rich and the poor clubs. Harder for the smaller clubs to compete. Some people worried it would inflate transfer fees, making it harder for clubs to buy players at a reasonable price.
And then there were the ethical questions. Where was PSG's money coming from? Would all this spending hurt the integrity of the game?
Absolutely. It made people wonder if football was becoming more about money than skill, whether these mega deals were making it unfair.
And what about Neymar? Was it just about the money or something more?
It's tough to say, probably a mix of things. Some thought he wanted a new challenge, to be the top guy, lead PSG to European glory. Others thought he wanted to get out from under Messi's shadow at Barcelona, prove he was the best in the world.
Ambition, ego, personal goals.
Always complicated. But one thing's for sure. Neymar going to PSG opened up a whole new world for football. Huge transfer fees became the norm, and the best players became prizes in a competition between the richest clubs. Neymar to PSG, it really changed things. And another one that shifted the landscape was Kylian Mbappe, going from Monaco to Paris Saint-Germain. What's wild is he was only 18 when he made the move. Initially on loan, but then a permanent deal for, get this, $180 million? Crazy amount of pressure for someone so young.
It was a gamble, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But it looks like it paid off. Mbappe's become one of the most exciting players in the world. PSG are dominating domestically, and they're always a threat in the Champions League.
Mbappe's transfer was a sign of things to come. Big money used to be for established stars. Right. But this showed that clubs were willing to spend big on young players, betting on their potential, even if they haven't hit their peak yet.
It's like they're trying to predict the future, figure out who the next superstar will be. Speaking of big money for potential, Paul Pogba. Back to Manchester United in 2016, world record fee at the time, £89 million.
Yeah, Pogba had left United for Juventus for almost nothing, just 4 years earlier. Developed into this incredible midfielder. United fans were over the moon to have him back, hoping he'd bring them back to the top.
So much hype, but it didn't really work out the way they'd hoped. Some brilliant moments, but inconsistent.
Pogba's transfer almost became a symbol of United after Ferguson. They were struggling, trying to find that winning formula. And even though he was talented, Pogba became a bit of a scapegoat.
I guess that huge transfer fee just amplified the pressure. Everyone expected him to be the savior, but that's a lot to live up to, especially when the team isn't consistently performing.
Even the best players need the right team. the right environment. Sometimes that big price tag can be a curse, weighs you down with expectations.
Speaking of not quite living up to expectations, Eden Hazard, Chelsea to Real Madrid, 2019, potential fee of $160 million.
He was magic at Chelsea. But then at Madrid, injuries just never really reached his potential. There were rumors he wasn't handling the pressure, the lifestyle of playing for Real Madrid.
Such a shame. He had so much talent. Even when a transfer looks perfect on paper, doesn't always mean it'll work out.
Right. You have to consider everything. Talent, personality, work ethic, if they can handle a new environment. Finding the right fit is key, both on and off the pitch.
Okay, this one felt inevitable. Erling Haaland, 2022, Borussia Dortmund to Manchester City, around $60 million.
He was scoring for fun in the Bundesliga. Every top club wanted him. But City, with their attacking style, Pep Guardiola, it just seemed perfect.
And it has been, hasn't it? Scoring goals like it's nothing helps City win another league title. They're always up there in the Champions League.
Haaland going to City also shows how powerful the Premier League is financially. They can outbid pretty much anyone for top players because the league is so popular, so successful commercially.
Speaking of financial power, Romelu Lukaku back to Chelsea 2021, club record fee, about $97.5 million.
Chelsea wanted to make a statement. They'd just won the Champions League, wanted to build a team that could win everything.
But it didn't exactly go smoothly. Seemed like a clash of styles between Lukaku and Tuchel, the Chelsea manager.
Goes to show, even with a huge fee, undeniable talent doesn't mean it'll work. Got to think about how a player fits into the system, the manager's philosophy. All that stuff matters.
Let's talk Zlatan. Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Larger-than-life personality. Inter Milan to Barcelona, 2009, around $69.5 million, a big win for Barcelona.
Zlatan was a goal-scoring machine, and Barcelona, with Guardiola, were playing some of the most beautiful football anyone had ever seen. Seemed like a match made in heaven.
Didn't last long, though, did it?
It did not. Ibrahimovic and Guardiola, personality clash, tactical clash. Guardiola, possession-based, team-oriented. Ibrahimovic was used to being the main man, the focal point.
It shows that chemistry, compatibility, just as important as talent when you're building a team.
Absolutely. Okay, rewind back to 2001, a transfer that had the whole world talking. David Beckham, Manchester United to Real Madrid, about $35 million.
Beckham was more than a footballer. He was an icon. Him going to Real Madrid was a huge cultural event.
It kicked off Real Madrid's Galacticos era. They were putting together a team of superstars. Zidane, Ronaldo, Figo, Roberto Carlos. Made to entertain as much as win.
Beckham in Madrid, it was a media frenzy. He was everywhere. Billboards, magazines. Shows how football was becoming more commercial, the power of these global stars.
It was the beginning of the modern era. Players as brands. Their appeal goes way beyond just their country.
And speaking of global superstars, Cristiano Ronaldo, Real Madrid to Juventus, 2018, around $100 million. Another huge move.
Ronaldo was 33, but still at the top of his game. He wanted a new challenge. Juventus gave him that. Conquer another league. Be the leader of a team that was hungry for the Champions League.
Prove that age isn't as important as it used to be. Players are taking better care of themselves, can play at a high level for longer.
Ronaldo going to Juventus was a huge deal for them. More global attention, more money, and made them serious contenders for the Champions League.
One transfer can have such a ripple effect. Affects the clubs, the whole football landscape.
And speaking of ripple effects, Virgil van Dijk, Southampton to Liverpool, 2018, around $75 million.
He completely changed Liverpool's defense. They went from leaky to one of the best in Europe.
He was a catalyst. They won the Champions League, their first Premier League title in 30 years, and he was at the heart of it all.
And that transfer started a chain reaction. Southampton used the money to strengthen their squad. Other clubs followed suit. Like dominoes.
Okay, this one felt like the end of an era. Andres Iniesta, 2018, leaves Barcelona, goes to Vissel Kobe in Japan.
Iniesta, the midfield maestro, the brain behind their tiki-taka style, him leaving was like closing the book on one of the most successful periods in their history.
Him going to Japan was a big deal for Asian football. Showed that the J-League was becoming a place where top players, even though still at the top of their game in Europe, wanted to play.
Sometimes it's more than football, isn't it? New experiences, new cultures, making a difference somewhere else.
Speaking of making a difference, Sergio Aguero, 2011, Atletico Madrid to Manchester City, about $38 million. Changed the club.
Aguero is a legend at City. Scored the most famous goal in their history, that last-minute winner against QPR, won them their first Premier League title in 44 years.
He got there right when they were starting to become a big deal. He was their star, their goal machine, key part of turning them into a powerhouse.
One player can change everything, and not just what they do on the pitch, but inspiring their teammates, changing the whole mindset of the club.
Speaking of changing mindsets, Johan Cruyff, 1973, Ajax to Barcelona. World record fee at the time, about $2 million. This was a game changer.
Cruyff was more than a player, he was a visionary. Brought his total football to Barcelona. Fluid movement, players switching positions, attacking.
He changed Barcelona, not just how they played, but their whole philosophy, their identity, and it lasted for decades.
Cruyff's legacy there is huge. They're all about attacking football, developing young players, playing beautifully, entertainingly. You can see his influence everywhere.
Sometimes the best signings aren't about talent. They're about bringing in a new way of thinking.
Absolutely. Okay, back to 2004, a transfer that captured everyone's attention. Wayne Rooney, Everton to Manchester United, about $25.6 million.
Rooney was a teenage prodigy. Local lad, became a global superstar at Old Trafford. United were making a statement. They were building a team for the future.
And he delivered, didn't he? Became their all-time leading scorer, 5 Premier League titles, Champions League, FA Cup, 3 League Cups.
His transfer was also a reminder of how important it is to develop young players. United's academy system is famous, and Rooney was a product of that.
Fans love stories like his. A local boy made good, playing for his boyhood club.
Speaking of clubs known for developing talent, Robert Lewandowski, Bayern Munich to Barcelona 2022, around $45 million. A real coup for Barcelona.
Lewandowski was scoring goals for fun at Bayern. Him going to Barcelona was a signal they were coming back to the top.
Bold move for Barcelona, considering his age. He was 34, but still one of the best strikers, hungry for trophies, perfect for Barcelona's ambitions.
Showed that even later in their careers, players still want to play for clubs with history, clubs with a plan for success.
And speaking of plans for success, Raheem Sterling, Manchester City to Chelsea, 2022, about $47.5 million.
Sterling was important for City, won 4 league titles with them, but he wanted something new, to be the main man somewhere, help the club rebuild, create a new identity.
Chelsea gave him that. Him going there showed that they were ready to challenge for trophies again.
Even players at successful clubs need a change sometimes. Reignite their career, reach their full potential.
Speaking of potential, Harry Kane, 2023, Tottenham to Bayern Munich, around $100 million. Must have been tough for Spurs fans to see him go, but he wanted trophies.
Kane had done it all at Tottenham, but no major trophies. Bayern Munich, consistent winners in their league, Champions League history, seemed like the place to finally win something.
It was a statement signing for Bayern. They'd lost Lewandowski, needed a world-class striker to replace him. Kane was the perfect fit.
Sometimes even the most loyal players have to make tough choices if they want to achieve their goals.
Speaking of loyalty, Sergio Ramos, 2021, leaves Real Madrid after years, joins PSG on a free transfer. End of an era at Real Madrid.
Captain, leader, legend at Real Madrid, won everything there. But at 35, he wanted something new. PSG, new league. Chance at the Champions League again.
He brought experience, leadership, winning mentality to PSG. They already had a lot of talent.
PSG showing they were serious about finally winning the Champions League.
And a player who defied expectations. Olivier Giroud, 2021, Chelsea to AC Milan, about $2 million. Turned out to be a brilliant move for Milan.
Giroud was scoring goals for Chelsea, but some people thought he was too old. Went to Milan, proved everyone wrong, helped them win the Serie A title.
Sometimes a change is all it takes. Giroud found a team that suited him, thrived in Italy.
He's a pro, dedicated, adapts to new places, a real example.
Adapting to new places. Let's talk about Antoine Griezmann, Atletico Madrid to Barcelona 2019, around $120 million. Didn't really work out.
Griezmann was a star at Atletico, but at Barcelona it just didn't fit. Different styles of play, never looked comfortable there.
Shows how important that fit is. Tactically, personally. Even a big money move to a big club can fail if the player doesn't gel with the team or the manager.
Talent and potential aren't everything. It's about the right environment.
Right. Jadon Sancho, 2021, Borussia Dortmund to Manchester United, around $85 million. One of the most talked about transfers that summer.
Sancho was on fire in the Bundesliga. United fans were excited to see him at Old Trafford bringing that skill. He's still young, getting used to the Premier League, but he's got so much potential.
United were investing in young, attacking players, building for the future.
It's great to see these young players coming up, making their mark on the game.
Speaking of making a mark, Matthijs de Ligt, 2019, Ajax to Juventus. About $85.5 million. Big transfer.
De Ligt, captain of Ajax, took them to the Champions League semifinals when he was only 19.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted him. Juventus got him.
They were making a statement, they wanted the Champions League, and they were willing to spend to get it.
These young players, taking on new challenges, playing at the highest level, inspiring.
And an inspiring transfer. N'Golo Kanté, 2016, Leicester City to Chelsea, about $32 million. One of the best deals in Premier League history.
He was the engine behind Leicester winning the league, a real fairy tale. Then goes to Chelsea, transforms their midfield, never stops running, wins the ball back, and fans love him.
Shows that sometimes the most valuable players aren't the ones scoring goals, it's the ones who do the hard work. The unsung heroes.
It's great to see players like Kanté getting recognized for what they do on the pitch and off it.
Speaking of recognition, Kevin De Bruyne, 2015 Wolfsburg to Manchester City, about $55 million. Genius move by City.
De Bruyne is one of the best midfielders in the world. Creative, incredible passer. He's the reason City have been so successful.
Sometimes the best signings aren't the big names, the expensive ones. It's the ones who fit the team, the style.
It's about finding those players who can take the team to that next level.
Speaking of next level, Trent Alexander-Arnold came up through Liverpool's academy. Shows how important it is to develop young players.
Alexander-Arnold is one of the best right-backs in the world. Great crosses, attacks, solid defender. Crucial part of Liverpool's success.
His story shows young players what's possible. Work hard, be dedicated, get the right opportunity, and you can achieve anything.
Inspiring. And another inspiring transfer. Thiago Silva, 2020, leaves PSG, joins Chelsea on a free transfer. Chelsea got lucky with that one.
Thiago Silva was in his mid-30s, but he brought so much to Chelsea. Experience, leadership, winning mentality. The fans loved him right away, and they won the Champions League in his first season.
Shows that age isn't everything. Experience and leadership are just as important.
Speaking of experience and leadership, Luka Modric, 2012, Tottenham to Real Madrid, around $30 million. Changed Real Madrid's fortunes.
Modric, the midfield maestro, controls the game with his passing, his vision. Helped Real Madrid win 5 Champions League titles. Amazing player.
He joined right when they were starting to become dominant again, and he was a big part of that.
Sometimes the best signings aren't the obvious ones. Modric wasn't flashy, but his impact was huge.
It's about those players who make the whole team better, unlock everyone's potential.
Exactly, and unlocking potential. Joshua Kimmich came up through Bayern Munich's academy, shows what their youth system can do.
Kimmich can play anywhere, natural leader, works hard, one of the most complete midfielders in the game.
Bayern are in good shape for the future with players like him coming through.
It's great to watch these young players become the stars of the future.
Speaking of stars, Son Heung-min, 2015, Bayer Leverkusen to Tottenham, about $22 million. One of the best deals the Premier League has ever seen.
Son's incredible, scores goals, sets them up, works hard. Tottenham fans love him, he's a global star.
And he wasn't a big name when he arrived. Shows that the best signings can come from anywhere.
You just have to find those players with the talent, the right mindset, and they can succeed no matter where they're from.
Speaking of finding the right players, Sadio Mane, 2016, Southampton to Liverpool, about £34 million. Brilliant move by Klopp, the Liverpool manager.
Mane, Salah, Firmino. That attacking trio was unstoppable. Champions League, first Premier League title in 30 years for Liverpool.
Klopp knew how to use Mane's speed, his power. He was perfect for Liverpool's style of play.
Klopp's a great coach, and he knows how to spot talent.
Yeah, he does. Okay, another manager who knows talent. Toni Kroos, 2014. Bayern Munich to Real Madrid, about $25 million. Steal for Real Madrid.
Kroos is like a clock in midfield, controls the tempo, passes perfectly. Real Madrid have been so successful, and he's a big reason why. 4 Champions League titles with them.
He joined right as they were starting to dominate again. It's not always about the flashy, expensive players. It's about those players who make the whole team better.
Totally. And making the whole team better. Gianluigi Buffon, 2001, Parma to Juventus. World record fee at the time for a goalkeeper, $52 million.
Buffon is a legend, one of the best goalkeepers ever. Played almost 20 years for Juventus, won 10 league titles, inspired a whole generation.
Him joining Juventus was the start of something special for them. He was always there, made those crucial saves, led by example.
It's crazy that he was still playing at a high level in his 40s. That's dedication, passion for the game.
Passion for the game. Let's talk Cristiano Ronaldo again. Back to Manchester United in 2021 after leaving